Hey guys, welcome back to the shack, and I've got another equipment review. Now I know sometimes, guys, these things can get a little old, and I understand that, but I also understand that with each machine that is released or each wave of machines that comes out, usually there's some advancements made in the machines. So when I was asked if I wanted to try out the new longer B1 30 watt, I couldn't turn it down, guys. I have had a longer machine before. It was a 10 watt machine, but it had the power of a 20 watt. Like, I don't know if you saw the video, but it cut really, really well. And I also have a couple of friends who have YouTube channels. Of course, most of you know my friend Steve over at Ventari's Workshop. He has a similar machine. I think he has a 20 watt, and he was pretty impressed with the performance of the 20 watt. And then another guy, coincidentally named Steve, over at Steve Makes Everything, he got his hands on the 30 watt, and he was saying some pretty impressive remarks about the 30 watt. And so I figured I wanted to try it out and check and see how it works. Longer makes lasers, but they also make 3D printers and some other stuff. But some of the advancements that they put in this machine is something I've never seen before in one of the longer machines. And so wanted to try it out, and it's a 30 watt, guys. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. I've got the box here, got it opened, and we're going to try to put this thing together and just do a preliminary review of it as far as the assembly and what it looks like coming out of the box. So if that's something you're into, stick around, and we're going to get this thing put together and make some smoke. All right, guys, so looking at it in the box, it's pretty well put together. It's packaged really well. I can tell you that the exterior box was ripped apart by the carrier, but luckily, because it was packaged well, everything looks like it's okay inside here. I was a little concerned when I saw the condition of the other box. It was on the outside, but everything looks good in here. Apparently UPS is getting a little abusive with my packages lately. But this is the quick start guide, guys. It was laying here on top of the machine. It does say that this is for the B1 series, the 20 or the 30 watts. So if you're watching this video trying to figure out how to put your machine together, from what I can tell, the 20 watt and the 30 watt, the process should be identical. Just at quick glance, it looks like it's going to be just a run-of-the-mill install like some of the other machines we put together before. Nothing too complicated. I do like the fact that this thing is pretty much, this is all English. I mean, it's one language, so that's a lot better. It's not confusing. The illustrations do have the little zoom bubbles so that you can see a little bit better what the illustrations are pointing to. That's a big plus. So as far as the book goes, it looks like it's going to be pretty easy to follow. So we'll lay that to the side. And guys, you know I like to kind of lay everything out and kind of orient myself to where everything is. And so I'm going to do that right quick, and then we'll go through what all's here and get started. Guys, this is going to be a really, really simple build. The cable management. Okay, you got me on that longer. It's pretty good looking cable management you got going on here. So let me grab a chair, grab my tools, and let's see how long it takes us to put this thing together. Okay, so basically we have to put the gantry on these two guys. Simple enough. All right, and to do so, there should be, so those are going to be under the bottom. This is going to go up that way. So we should be able to simply slide this in through here. Now I'm going to have to kind of watch my little cable over here because I pulled the sticky stuff off of it. May have been a little premature, but I got that through. Got the wires here, nothing got damaged. We're good to go. Gonna do the same thing on the other side. Tensioners go down, guys. So if you're doing this or following along, make sure you got your tensioners down and not up. Okay, that's slid through there. I'm gonna move this around, keep them scratching that good looking paint job they got on there. All right, so that part's done. Part two, we're gonna need M5 times 12 screws, 4 of them. So we're getting our little goodie bag here and find out what all we got. That is going to be an extra lens with the, it has the brass ring actually with it instead of just being a lens. That's very handy and thoughtful of them. I do have a micro SD and a reader. I'll lay that over here because there's going to be some software and stuff we're going to want to get off of there, maybe some updates. Step 5, we got limit switches. So we're going to be putting on some limit switches. I got the belts and toolkit with some sample materials and cleaning brush. The next step, guys, is going to be to put these exterior rails into the body here and then tighten them up. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to get that done here.
From the country down in Alabama, raise a little hell in the promised land. Don't take none from anyone. Work a little harder till the job gets done. From the country down in Alabama, raise a little hell in the promised land. Don't take none from anyone. Work a little harder till the job gets done. I'm proud to be born free.
All right. So guys, we're like mostly assembled already. Step 3, got to do the belt. It says timing belt, prepare timing belt times 2. So we'll go forward with that. You're going to have 2 of these guys. And these are not going to be the loop belts. These are the straight belts. So that means that these are going to more than likely clip to the bottom of the gantry here. You're just going to have to run them around both ends of the machine, and then they'll clip to the gantry. Now, I will say this. The plastic tweezers, although I think it was a good idea in use with me for my hands, they're not very effective. So I've went and got my little needle nose pliers here. I went ahead and got one of the belts in just to try to figure out what the easiest process was. And I will say this, before you start fighting with the belt, just go ahead and release the tensioners to the point to where there's a little pin that goes in those tensioners. Go ahead and back those all the way out until that little pin comes out of the little holder, the little alignment holder. Because if you don't, these belts are really, really hard to get in. So you're going to want to back that out a little ways where there's an alignment pin that goes in. You want to back that out a little ways to make life a little easier on yourself. Now, what I'm going to do on this one, I'm going to lay this in the little trough here. And I went and got my trusty needle nose pliers here. And so I'm going to do the loop. That did work. It's just a little awkward with the tweezers, but now that I've got me some actual needle nose, I think I can do a little better using it and my Allen wrench to kind of push it around behind, push the belt around behind the pulley. I think it'll make it a lot easier. So, well, I had it in there and I messed it up and pulled it out, guys. This part's a little tedious. It's not a bad install, but there is a trick to that. So if you have a pair of needle nose, guys, go ahead and get them. Go ahead and get them handy when you're doing this part, because they do make life a little easier for you. The belt simply slides into a notch, and then once it slides into the notch, it pulls forward, and it kind of locks in place. So that part of the belt is not tough at all. And then, of course, right here on the tensioners, if you have yourself a small set of needle nose pliers, it's easy enough to just stick that belt underneath it, reach through from the top, grab it, and pull it through. But I will tell you, if you don't back the tensioners down, getting this back into the gantry is a challenge. Once I get the belt on there, I'm going to go ahead and pull these tensioners back down at least until that pin is in the little alignment hole there, and get a little tension on these belts. So I'm not going to over tension those just yet. that one's pretty tight, so we're gonna go ahead and tension this one down a little more. I think we're good right there. So yeah, the trick to those guys is the needle nose. The little plastic tweezers were a good idea, but I just couldn't get enough of a grip on that belt, and it was whooping me. So there's that. Now it's saying that we've got to push the axis, of course, to sync the belts together. We need to do that. And since I've got both of the belts on there, the gantry should work accordingly. So we're just going to push it down to the bottom here. Make sure everything syncs up completely. There's also going to be a blue nut on the tensioners that we're going to have to tighten up, which is going to be, it's just a lock nut basically to keep those tensioners from backing off. But I'm going to wait till I check everything before I do that part. Make sure it's as tight as I want it. We're going to need the handle screw. So for the most part, to be honest with you, so far in this build, those belts to me have been the hardest part, getting those belts on there. It's kind of a confined space, and I couldn't really get good leverage on them. So here's the module. And guys, that is a module right there. So it does have the little flip down focus lever. It has a removable safety shield, but when you remove the safety shield, you're going to lose your little flip down lever. So, I guess we'll run it with it on there for a little while. But you know that, guys, y'all know that's coming off. That's coming off eventually. But it is removable, but you lose your little kickstand foot when you remove it. So it'll be step 5. Got a limit switch with some screws. All right, it says pay attention to hole position. So we've got 2 limit switches and 4 screws here. .5mm screws. All right, so limit switch, and I need 2 screws. Install the X-axis limit switch. It's showing it near the button right in here, and it's only showing 2 screws. It's saying pay close attention to the hole position. It doesn't specify that it's different from one or the other, but it's showing to put the screws in the holes in the furthest reach. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to turn the limit switch so that the little spade is down. So if I do bump it with some material or something, maybe it won't damage it. And put this guy right here. Get that screw started. We'll go ahead and put the other one in before I go in all the way. Now, these are not going to need to be really tightened. You just want to literally snug these guys down, because if you tighten this too tight, you're going to bust that limit switch. They shouldn't be getting a whole lot of extreme forces, so you should be good there. All right, so my next limit switch, got that one on. It's right here above the stepper. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to point the little spade down, so if it does get caught on anything, maybe it won't break it. Like I said, with these screws, snug it down. There's no need to be torquing on these things, because it is a little plastic switch, and if you torque too much, you're going to break it. So that wiring harness is going to go here to this limit switch. They have already got pre-attached Velcro to the gantry that's attached with screws. That's pretty neat. So I'm going to pull the gantry all the way back and go ahead and attach that. All right, so pretty much, guys, it's all down to wiring and the air assist now as far as connecting everything up. So I'm going to go ahead and get my little air assist hose here ready. And we'll go around this thing, connect everything up, add our air assist hose, and once we do a little bit of software work, we should be ready to go. So, all right, guys, so I got the machine together, did a little testing just to kind of get the lay of the land. And I will tell you guys, the fan on this guy, you can hear it. And I don't think that's a bad thing because at least you know when the machine's on and you don't forget to leave it on. But we're going to turn the machine off just so that you guys don't have to listen to it. And I'm going to go over some of the things that I like about the machine so far. All right, so yes, the machine is a little noisy. So if that's a big deal breaker for you, then that's something you may want to consider. But guys, I'm going to tell you, I've just did a few test cuts with the machine. I'm having to dial in the settings because even though it's a 30 watt and I'm used to 30 watt machines, it's a little hotter than what I'm used to with 30 watt machines. Now, for those of you that are familiar with Steve over at Gantry's workshop, Steve has a machine like this, and there are some issues that we're going to discuss in a minute as far as the software setup, but I just kind of want to point out a few things here that I do like about the machine as opposed to a lot of the others, and some things that they're kind of winning me over with on this machine. First off, the work area, guys. This work area is massive. Okay, I like my Acer P20 because it has a large work area. Well, just so I can make sure I'm not telling you guys wrong, the work area on this machine is 450 by 430, which is massive as far as the traditional square frame machines goes. That's a big plus. I like that. I think that's a really good selling point for me because it gives you a lot more room, as well as when you're running at higher speeds with a 30 watt module, it gives you a lot more kind of splash area on the sides for your overscanning to avoid hitting the rails and being able to run this thing as fast as you need to. One big thing that they've got me with too is the fact that the way they designed this machine, it more or less, even with this small honeycomb in here, it more or less has a pass through without any leg extensions. There's nothing hanging underneath the bottom here. It's kind of open, so you've got a pretty good bit of room for, you know, some pretty sizable materials if you need to put something long in here. The little control module on the front does kind of get in the way on this side, but typically, you know, your module's going to be over here anyway, so you could put something underneath there. Also, if you took the honeycomb out from under it, you can fit a piece of up to probably about 1 inch material under the chassis of the machine without having to lift it up or anything like that. That was a good design feature. The module itself, it is kind of beefy. It is pretty good sized module, but this metal cover actually does come off of the machine. The only thing is you would lose your little flip down lever for focusing, which I'm gonna be honest with you guys, is probably something that it wouldn't upset me terribly to lose that and be able to, you know, make my own focusing tool. This will probably end up being gone. There's a couple of other things with the air assist. The pump seems to be fairly effective. The nozzle that's on here, Steve pointed out, Gantry pointed out in this video also, the nozzle doesn't seem to be concentrating the airflow enough to get the desired effect with the air assist. But because of the work area of this machine, guys, I'm not going to do a whole lot of testing tonight with it. I just kind of wanted to point out that, you know, it is a large machine. Some of the things that they've done, the way the gantry is designed, everything's kind of put away and hidden. You have the stepper over here is actually elevated higher than normal for most machines. so you don't have as much of a risk of it hitting your work material. All in all, guys, I'm digging the machine to the point to where I think I'm going to put it in my enclosure. The air assist, the way that this air assist works, you know, I use shop air, so I'm not really big on having the pump per se, but it does have an output and it does work. I've tested it. You can turn the air assist on in light burn, it'll cut on, it'll cut off during the cuts, and that's a big deal for me. I've got a couple other machines that are capable of doing that, but the work area of those machines are not as big as this one. So I think I'm going to give this guy a little bit of a run in the enclosure and see how it does. For now, I've got to build me a jig kit for it because I cannot operate without my jig kits. So I'll be building a jig kit for this machine. And also I have an M8 relay in my enclosure. And I was noticing that the air assist here, this little relay box is a 24 volt output. So that's interesting to me as well, because that means I can run my M8 relay with the output from here. So there's probably going to be a little bit of wiring done, mixing some things up, and set this thing up to where it controls my shop air. But so far, guys, I'm getting 10 millimeter a second drops on this 4.9 millimeter material, which is really fast. The other 30 watt machine that I have in the enclosure currently, I can run 8 to 9, and I can get 10 out of it. And I haven't even played with the focus a whole lot to see if I can improve upon that. But that's tonight's video, guys, was just more or less going to be the assembly and introduce you guys to it. Give you my first impressions of the machine, and so far they're pretty good. So, all right, guys, so this is by far the most advanced machine that I had seen from Longer. The machines that I've had from them before, they were very powerful, very accurate, easily put together. The assembly of this machine is not that complicated. The belts is literally the hardest part of it. And if you have smaller fingers, or if you just go and grab you a set of needle nose pliers to start with, it'll make that job a lot easier for you. The way it operates, the way it's set up, cable management, all of those things get really good scores with me. The only thing is the cables popping out of the top like that. It's kind of a letdown. I feel like they could have put them over here to the side and made that look a lot cleaner, made cable management a little bit better, so you don't have the USB and the power adapter, you know, sticking up in the front of the machine. The other thing is I kind of wish they'd have put that focus leg on the module instead of that lens cover, so that I could take that thing off and not have to worry about a secondary way of adjusting the focus, but we'll work through that. Not that big of a deal. Other than that, guys, massive work area. The 30 watt module is putting out substantially more power than what most of the machines that I've dealt with do. So I'm getting really good cuts on it. I'm getting a lot of soot, but I think that's partially because of the issue with the air assist. And Steve over at Gantry's workshop, if you want to go watch his video, he did a little experimenting by restricting the airflow in the nozzle and got a lot better results using the pump that the machine comes with. But I'm going to try to take it to a different level and maybe play around with using shop air on it. May even see if I've got another nozzle in the toolbox somewhere that I might could adapt to it or fit to it to try to restrict that airflow a little. But I'm going to play around with it and do some testing, and we'll bring you back once I get this thing in an enclosure so that it doesn't smoke up the place, because 30 watt machines, guys, they generate a lot of smoke. I mean, they cut really fast, but they generate a lot of smoke. So I'm going to get this thing in an enclosure, and we'll do another follow-up video sometime this week, hopefully, and see what this thing's made out of. All right, guys, so other than the one little software hang-up that happens if you automatically adapt this thing over to Lightburn, if you auto-detect it to Lightburn, it's going to install it as a legacy device in Lightburn, which is going to create some issues in some of the communications between the machine. It basically forces it to go into constant power mode, and that can lead to overburning near the edges and so forth. So you're going to want to make sure when you install the machine that you set it directly to GRBL. That's it. None of the other little variants of laser garble. Don't use those. And I'm going to credit that to my friend Steve, and also Steve over at Steve Makes Everything. So you've got the two Steves that kind of help me avoid having to figure that problem out myself. It's going to be Steve at Gantry's workshop and Steve over at Steve Makes Everything. Steve over at Steve Makes Everything, he has the exact same machine, and I've watched his videos, and I will say I agree with his assessment of the machine. to the point, guys, to where I'm going to run it for a little while. I'm going to put it to work. I'm going to do some jobs with it. I'm going to put it in my little small enclosure here and see how it does. As long as it'll fit, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a lot bigger than anything else I've got in the shop. So we'll get to that. But I'll drop those guys' channels down below. And if you haven't already, go check them out. Give them a thumbs up. Tell them Clack said, hey, whatever floats your boat on that aspect. But those two guys kind of helped save me some time in the setup, because that can be a bit of a hiccup when you can't get it to come out of constant power mode. So kudos, guys, for saving me that trouble. But go tell them thanks. Give them a thumbs up. Check out the video. Both of those guys do a lot of detail into the safety mechanisms and so forth on the machine. I try to stick with more of the does it work and how well does it work kind of approach. So if you want to know some more about the inner workings of the machine, go check out their videos. They've got some really cool videos on the longer 30 watt that may fill in some of the blanks, because I'm just kind of doing a high flyover, guys, and I'm hoping we can turn out some projects and just put it through the paces sometime this week. So until next time, be safe and have a good day.